What do you think the number one reason that people fail to have an upward equity curve like this? What do you think the number one reason is that people struggle with trading? Do you know what it is? I'll tell you what it is. Over allocation. They over allocate. So even if they have good setups, yeah, poor allocation, but specifically, Marlon, over allocation. Because if you had good setups, if you had a good methodology to find trades, but you over allocate, it slaps you in the face so hard because you're like, oh, I love this trade. And maybe it's a good trade until it turns on you. And if it turns on you and you've over allocated, it destroys your confidence and your account. Over allocating is the worst thing that you could ever do in trading, next to trading without a setup. Like, that's the worst thing that you could ever do. And this is really the second thing that you should ever do. No, stop losses on options are a bad idea because the market will stop you out. So the market knows where your stop losses are, ladies and gentlemen, and they'll bring price just down there. So you're better off just having a mental stop loss at 70%. If you hit 70, just get out. Now, if you're someone who works full time and you can't be there at the exact moment, if you want to put a stop market, not a stop loss, but you wrote market, but not market order, a stop market. So the stop market would be if you bought it for $20, right? What you do is you do a stop market at 60, right? Yeah, at $60, which would be a 70% loss. I don't suggest you do that. You should really just stick with a mental loss. Keep an eye on your account. If you have to get out at 60% because you won't be around for the rest of the day, that's fine. But you really don't want to stick a stop loss on there because the markets know exactly where those levels are. So this is the number one reason why people fail in trading, because they overallocate. Because all it takes is one or two over allocations and your account's done, right? Or your confidence is gone. And if your confidence is gone, that leads me to the number two reason that people fail. And what do you think that is? What do you think the second reason people fail? If the first is over allocation, because you lose too much money or you lose your confidence, well, this is all about emotion. Now, number two is under allocation, because now you're trading scared. And typically number one leads to number two. And all these new people that go, oh, well, I'm just trading one contract. I want to see if your system works. You can't do that, because the trade that might have been the big winner, that you only traded one small little contract, if you had traded your pilot and made 70, 80, 100, 150%, that's what would have made that move. But it only made this move, so that when you had the loss, it did this and this and this, and you just kind of worked your way like this with one contract. You don't want to do that. Under allocation is the second. And the third, which is something that most of you have never really thought about, is that you either don't know how or when to add to a trade. Because adding to a trade, yeah, the number of times that you'll be in a good setup that gaps down the next day where you lose more than 70, so be it. So it gapped down. If it gapped down below your 70%, then yeah, just wait it out and see if after the gap down you get buyers to come in. And if the buyers come back in ever so slightly, then you can get out at 70, or you could wait for it to come all the way back. So that's typically what you should do. If it gaps down below where you wanted to get out, at that point, you might as well just see if it's not going to come back. I'm not talking about a a drop in price. It keeps dropping and dropping. I'm talking about a gap down. Typically, there would have to be like an earnings call or something that you would be prepared for. Yeah, not normal. Exactly, Allocat. So here, number 3, very important. Check it out. Right? How or when to add to a trade. Because if you don't add, this is the equivalent of the blackjack player that only plays $25 chips. You cannot get ahead of the casino no matter what your strategy is in blackjack. It's not going to happen often that you take a trade setup and it gaps down. If that happens, that means you're only taking earnings trades because stocks don't gap down very often, especially ones that had good setups, right? Not going to happen often. A good blackjack player knows when to double down. A good blackjack player knows how to split aces. A good blackjack player knows after 2 or 3 wins to double up and start with $50, 2 chips, 3 chips, 5 chips, money management. You cannot beat the casino by betting 1 chip on every hand. What do you think poker is? You ante up, but you can't make money if you're just anting up and you just win the ante back. You have to add to the pot, right? And so trading is the same way. You'll never be able to truly move up your equity curve if you're just trading a certain number of contracts. You've got to know when to add to the trade. However, so this is me and you now. What do you think the biggest hurdle in adding to trades is? Like if someone is like afraid to add to trades, why would they be afraid to add? Do you think? Maybe you are. Why would somebody be afraid to trade? Add to the trade. Maybe it's an incorrect burn, perhaps. They just don't want to lose any more money. It's bad enough that I'm going to lose the pilot. I don't want to lose more. Yeah, they're just afraid they're going to lose more. And so they never add to the trade. And so they end up going from over to under. Under allocate, then they get a couple of good trades, then they over allocate until their confidence is shaken from a bad loss, and then they go back to this. And they never do this. And then you aren't really trading with any confidence. So I've got an answer to that. So I'm going to now show you the 40 of the 70-40 plan, which you've probably started to figure out, right? But this is incredible. This is money management for traders that you have never seen before if you've never heard my talk. I'm going to give you another rule, and that rule is that if you add to the trade, 2 conditions. Number 1, it will always be less than the pilot. Now remember, your pilot is less than your burn. So if you add to the trade, let's say your initial trade was, 170, that was your pilot position. So we already know that if you lose 70%, your loss is 120, and you're okay with that, right? You already told me that you're okay. In fact, thrilled to death that I'm only losing that on a losing trade, right? This is your pilot. Rightio. So the first rule of adding is that it's going to be less than your pilot. And the second rule is that you're going to exit the entire trade. If you add to the trade and it gets down by 40%, you're out. Now, this doesn't happen often. Why? Because typically you add to a trade when price takes out a certain level in your favor. And when it takes out a certain level in your favor, it usually continues. But there are going to be times when you add to a trade and it flip-flops on you. And if it does, exit at 40%. Now watch this. If the ad here in this scenario is, say, 120 bucks, that would make sense to me. So your initial trade was 170, okay? And your ad trade was 120. Or let's just say, I'll bump it up even more. Let's make it 130. So that's a round number, somewhere around a round number. So now you've got $300 at risk. Now, normally, somebody that has a $200 burn level, having $300 at risk would make them very nervous, would it not? I would think it would. However, the new rule of getting out at 40%, what's 40% of 300? Yeah. The bells just should have gone off. It's the same. So what I've just created for you is a way for you to calmly and professionally add to a trade without having any more risk than you had when you were trading the pilot. You got it? Ding, 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 ding. Does everybody get it? Now, give or take a few bucks and a gap down Peter here and there, for the most part, right? You now have a way that you can now alter these rules a little. You can alter the burn level, maybe make it higher, maybe make it lower. You can choose to make the pilot a little less, a little more. You could change 70 to 60 if you don't like it, and make it 60-30. You could make it 50-25. You can alter these numbers after a period of time to really make it kind of fit you, which is why I tell you, do not trade. Don't trade right away. Go through all the basics. Go through the advanced. Learn this plan inside and out. Create a burn level. Learn the setups. Put the alerts in the tracker. Read my alerts and understand them. Go back to the chart and see, why did he enter this trade? Why is he exiting the trade? Learn about setups. And don't worry, Allocat, I'm getting there. And then you can paper trade this. So when I gave you the analogy of football, don't just give a football to 14 guys and go practice, right? You got to practice with a plan. You're going to practice. You're going to sim trade my alerts once you've gone through the basics and you've gone through all of the advanced. You've completed the modules and you've completed the nugget farm, which is what you're supposed to watch after you sim trade. But you can sim trade with this plan. If you sim trade with this plan and get comfortable with this plan, then when you go live, you've got muscle memory and you know what to do. You're not going to freak out, oh my God, here's my first trade. It's $200. You're cool as a cucumber because you know what to do. You're out at 70%. The first time you add to a trade, you're cool as a cucumber because you're out at 40%. You'll never lose more than $120. And if $120 is too much, then adjust the burn level and do it for a few months. And if this works for you, but your account's moving up a little too slow, but you're okay with the number, then you can increase the number a little bit.
Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video from Trade With Me Now. Make sure to go ahead and like this video and subscribe to our channel so you make sure that you catch our next video right when it's released. Also, if you have a question or comment, please leave that in the comment section below. And of course, if you want to learn more about Trade With Me Now or join our community of profitable traders, go to tradewithmenow.com. There's also a link in the description below.